Hi there. A topic which has risen to prominence lately in House of the Dragon Season 2 is what are the cultural attitudes in Westeros towards kinslaying? Because recently in Episode 2 we had the duel to the death between the Cargyll twins, and also the question many have asked of why is Aemond One Eye being labeled a kinslayer for killing his nephew, half-nephew, Luke, whereas Rhaenyra is not being blamed for the blood and cheese assassination against her half-nephew Jaehaerys. And George R. R. Martin actually has addressed this for years. I'm referring back to a Q&A he did back in 2001, where the context was someone was asking about kinslaying between Stannis and Renly, potentially, or how when Robb Stark executes Rickard Karstark because they're cousins of the main Stark line. This happened in the TV show as well. He accused him of, "We are kin, you will be cursed for executing me, it's kinslaying." And Martin explained pretty clearly, well, he clearly explained that it's unclear. He said there are degrees of kinslaying in Westeros. And it's not like a formal rule, but people do recognize the distinction. That the absolute worst thing you can do is to personally kill your sibling or your parent or something by your own hand. Like Tyrion killing Tywin for whatever reason when he was unarmed on the privy is pretty bad. Or the Cargyll twins killing each other. But there's gradations of that in terms of family degrees as well of did you do it by your own hand? Did you order your army to do it? And the way he explains it with Renly and Stannis is, given that they had both declared we are fighting each other well in advance, and if on the battlefield Renly's army killed Stannis, there's a taboo on that, but okay, it was a civil war and you're fighting each other if he didn't personally kill him. And then, even then, there's gradations of, did you openly, publicly order your men to kill him? That's bad. But if you publicly ordered your men, try to take Stannis alive, he's my brother, we can send him to the Night's Watch, and he ended up dying by accident, by arrow fire or something, much less bad. So, I mean, obviously civil wars are usually fought between blood of some kind. The nobility are all cousins, it's succession disputes, but there are gradations of that it's worse if you ordered your army to do it on the battlefield, even worse if you did it by your own hand. But even then, if you declare, like a trial by combat or something, if you declare openly, assassination is a lot worse. Sneaking around is pretty bad. Or a surprise attack. So people label Aemond the Kinslayer because he did directly attack Luke on his dragon. No one denies he did that. Oh, by his own hand or by his dragon. It was a one-on-one fight. Luke wasn't trying to fight him. He had said, I have come here as an envoy, and then he went after him, after explicitly saying, I do not want to fight you now, is pretty bad. Versus, while the blood and cheese assassination was horrifying, and everyone even says in the historical annals this is one of the worst assassinations and just the gratuitousness of this in universe, it's infamous. Rhaenyra herself didn't personally wield the sword, wield the dagger. That they wondered, did she order this, or did Daemon order it and she went along with it? An assassination sneaking in and killing children is very bad, and it did tarnish her. But there is a clear distinction in Westeros of, well, did you hire an assassin, or did you personally do it? And even then you can make the argument of, that in the episode they're saying, Rhaenyra the Cruel, Rhaenyra the Monstrous, Rhaenyra the Kinslayer. Well, the Greens think she's a Kinslayer, but again, there's degrees in everything. I'm just putting the quotes by Martin up here from the archive of his old Q&A. And this is debatable between the blacks and the greens. I think it'd be a litmus test, but there is a distinction of who shot first. That, well, in response to Luke's horrifying kinslaying, that he wasn't looking for a fight, that Daemon ordered assassins to go in, arguably a mistake. Even in the book, they say they think the assassins were going for Aegon. TV show had Aemon, same thing. They thought, I believe that for the books, you'd go after a dragon rider. What did they gain from killing a kid? militarily. It wouldn't make sense that it just an assassination that went wrong. But not personally doing it and not being the first one to kinslay. That if you do, in other cases, what if you're responding to kinslaying with kinslaying? Different angle there. So there's degrees and interpretations of everything. That's what history is. And I mentioned with Robb Stark and the Karstarks, Martin himself points out that is a giant stretch. Because they split off from the main Stark line 1,000 years ago, so they're distant cousins. And he murdered prisoners, and Robb, in his capacity as king, is formally executing him publicly for what everyone knows is a crime. People in the books generally don't call Robb a kinslayer for that, even though he personally executed. It's not just I killed you on the battlefield. It's a personal execution because the North values. Again, the Northerners had the whole thing of if you're going to execute one, you have to personally do it. That's a bit of a reverse. I think the North would think him cowardly if he didn't execute him personally. But no, that's a formal, you killed prisoners, I have to take responsibility for that and take you out, and you're only really a distant cousin. Not so much, they wouldn't really do that. And you're supposed to tell people on the battlefield, try to capture them alive. Like with Renly or Stannis. How do you do that when the rival cousin or rival half-brother is riding a dragon? You can't take them alive. But even then, it's more polite to formally say, if we go to battle, I will not be taking you alive. Know the stakes before we go in. It's all about the formal notice of these are the terms that we've agreed upon. If you take no prisoners, it's not as bad if you say at the start of the battle, we aren't taking prisoners, I don't expect you to take our people prisoner. It's about the formality of it. And going in and telling your people in advance, do we try to take them alive or not? And even then, not getting into spoilers, there's things in the books of like, if and when people get captured and freed and released and escape in various things all the time, not getting into it, ultimately, I think they should have had Daemon point out is, what do you think is going to happen? That we're going to have a peaceful settlement, or that we're going to have to, even if all of Alicent's immediate children die, what about their little children? Our enemies will politically rally around them as pawns to put them on the throne. That you think his little son Jaehaerys is going to make it out of this alive? And there's a debate later in the books of, could we send them to the Night's Watch, or would they just break their vows? Do you take them alive or not? Separate thing. But why don't historians remember Rhaenyra as a kinslayer as much? The green ones do, but it faded with time. Well, the greens drew first blood. They drew first blood. And now the blacks are giving them a war like they won't believe.